In today's video, we'll be learning how to edit Ilford HP5. Let's get into it. Here is our image. We have a nice wall art. To start off, we will be white balancing the image by pressing the W key and clicking on the outside of the film border. And then we need to pull up Negative Lab Pro, Control Alt Delete. Is the shortcut to do that. Save you a little bit of time. Negative Lab is already set to black and white, so we are good there. I'm going to make sure that we are running on the newer engine. We will find that out in a moment. So for now, cancel. If you guys will notice, I did not zoom in on the film border. I'm going to make sure that we are running on the newer engine. We will find that out in a moment. So for now, and so the conversion was kind of weird looking. So before we do this, our border buffer, you can do this automatically with Lightroom, and you can preview this to make sure you're cutting enough of the film border out. So let's just do this quickly. And once we get to no film border, then we will be good. Oh, is that the most we can do is 25%? That'll be interesting to see. So I'm going to actually go back to 5%. Because there's a tiny sliver of film border. So I'm just going to do this for now. Border buffer can just stay this way. I'm going to hit cancel. If you need to manually do this, you can press the R key, and that brings up your crop tool, and we can just easily pull this in and crop quickly. So we'll do that. Okay, now we're ready to convert. Control Alt N. Type is negative. Source is from a digital camera. That is correct. And color mode is black, color model is black and white. And I just leave pre-saturation at default. Let's hit convert and see how we look now. Hey, much better. Okay, so for now, I'm going to click on apply and go back to the crop tool, hit the R key and drag these edges back out so we can see what we've got going on here. All right, so there we are, Ilford HP5 Plus. This is kind of contrasty, but not in a bad way. So let's get to work here. To start, let's jump into Negative Lab and make sure we're running on the most current engine settings. This file was originally converted quite a while ago. It looks like on version 2.3, and there's been 2 releases since then. So I have no idea if that is going to change anything. Let's just run through these curve points real quick and see if we can tell a difference. I am not really seeing anything here. Sometimes you will not see changes, and that's okay. Actually, hold on, let's just do this. Okay, so there is a difference. If we do version 1 to version 2 to version 3, there's a lot more midtones and darks coming in. So that did make a difference. Is it a lot of difference from version 2.3? 2.3... there is a difference. It seems like version 3.1 Plus is slightly lighter in the midtones. All right, let's keep cruising along here. So this isn't a terribly long video, so I'm just going to run through these quick. I cannot tell a difference between smooth and precise. Sometimes there is not much difference. That's okay. If we hit manual, we might be able to get a difference, but I'm not seeing any sort of change. So let's just leave this alone. 4 curve points, curve process, classic or refined. We have a little more contrast in the refined setting, so let's go with that. Color first, tones first. I've never seen the difference there. Density. No difference there. Color method. Probably not going to see much difference here because it's a black and white photo. No difference. So we'll just leave that alone. And these other settings are not ones I usually adjust, so we will leave those alone and not worry about them for now. Okay, so let's go back to the edit panel and quickly just run through a couple of these other settings just to see how they look. If we need less contrast, Lab Soft helps with that. If you want to add more of your own contrast. The cinematic profiles probably aren't going to look the greatest here. No, not very good. Lab Hard's probably going to be way too contrasty. Yes, that's very contrasty. It kind of helps everything pop, but it does look a little much. And the other one I wanted to try, well, let's see, is Shadow Soft. Curious to see Shadow Soft versus Standard. That's surprising. Highlight Soft. Standard. Huh, interesting. Highlight Soft. So you kind of get some different looks. Nothing crazy. I mean, you just scroll through these to find the one you like. Go with that. I'm curious to see how linear looks. Sometimes I prefer that for black and whites. For this particular image, I'm just curious to see here. What was that? Linear, deep versus lab standard. I think for this one, lab standard is going to be the one to go with. It's got a nice balance of contrast and mid-tone detail, and we can definitely bring some of this out. I'm not going to worry about white balance here because this is a black and white image, so it's not going to do a whole lot, but I will add a little bit of sharpening. I like to add that. Okay, let's see our before and after. Not much difference, just a little bit. Mostly a slightly flatter image, but that's okay. All right, so we have Negative Lab Pro out of the way. Let's straighten this photo by jumping over to the guided transform tool. Scroll down to transform and click on guided. And this part is super quick and easy. You just line up this little cross with the film border or as close as you can get to the film border. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll line up the cross, click and drag to the other side of the film and try to line it up as close as you can. It's never going to be exactly perfect, but that's okay. It'll straighten the photo either way. Boom, boom, okay. And then we'll come back up to the left side here, do the same thing. Click and drag to the bottom. Boom, boom. And one more time on the right side of the photo. Click and drag. Okay. Now our photo is straightened. I still, after this many episodes, don't know how to close the guided transform tool other than by pressing the R key, which is the crop tool. We have a little bit of an issue here. It's hard to see everything because the photo is rotated a different direction. So I believe if we hold the control and bracket, this was the left bracket key that I pressed, that rotated our photo. I know this looks ugly right now because the photo is sideways, but it makes it a little easier to come in and crop the borders. So I'm going to do that quickly. Sometimes I like to leave the text on the film borders on medium format images, but 6x6 sometimes doesn't look very good. So in this particular image, we'll be removing the text and frame number. So hit the enter key, and then what I'm going to do is hit the control and right bracket, and that'll rotate this back over. And other than just a slight adjustment at the top and a slight adjustment at the bottom, I think we have it. Boom, 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 that looks good. For some reason, I like keeping the left side a little bit thicker. I don't know why. Just, I've seen that at some point in my photo career for Hasselblads, and kind of like a little bit thicker left side with the little notches cut out of the film border. Okay, so everything looks good here. We're gonna call that good so we can keep this a reasonable length video. So now that we are done in Lightroom, let's run to Photoshop by right clicking and clicking on Edit In on the drop down menu and coming over to Adobe Photoshop. Okay, now that we are in Photoshop, we are going to click on the quick selection tool, which I believe is the W key. Let's hover over and double check. Quick selection tool is the W key. So we'll hit W and we're going to click and drag on the inside of the film border here. I'll show you why in just a moment. Some images, this works really easy. Some images, it's kind of a pain in the butt. This image might be a little bit of a pain because of the bricks, the texture there. So far, we are looking pretty good though. And what we're gonna do is just click and drag all the way down and around the inside. Oh, see, we had a big chunk that just kicked out here. What we're gonna do is select the inside of the film border, and I'll show you why in just a moment. So we'll go around our image until we have the inside completely selected. I'm just clicking and dragging along here. This right side of the image is going to be way easier because there's a large amount of contrast between the film border and the photo. The bottom here is going to be a little bit tricky. We are getting there. Okay, so what just happened? The whole film border just moved to the outside of the image. Sometimes this happens, I don't know why. If we hit Control Z and try this again, let's see what happens. Okay, I didn't like that. So I'm gonna just, let's try it one more time. I don't think it's gonna work. Okay, so in the instance that the selection goes to the outside of your image, like this one did, if you hold the Alt key and click and drag, this will invert your selection, and so now we are pushing the selection from the complete edge of the photo to the edge of the film border again. This should go relatively quickly. There might be a little bit of a hang up on the bottom here, but so far so good. Okay, there was a little bit of a hang up because it's darker here, but we're gonna make it work. Photoshop is pretty smart. Sometimes zooming in helps Photoshop be able to see the difference between the contrast areas. Okay, that is good enough. If you want to spend more time here to get this edge exactly perfect, you can definitely do that. For time's sake, we will not be doing that today. Hit Control 0 to zoom out, and now what we've done is selected the inside of our photo, and we'll come up to Filter and click on Camera Raw Filter. This is basically like Lightroom inside Photoshop. Why am I doing this? Because we have normal sliders, and there is a way to have normal sliders in Lightroom with Negative Lab, but you are editing a TIFF file. If we edit this way, the whole editing process is done in a raw file, so we have all the data to work with. There's nothing lost, so you have the most flexibility for making your edits. With that out of the way, let's jump into working on this image. I will usually start in the dark area, and because the darks are kind of light in this image, I'm actually going to be pulling them back instead of pushing them up. So I don't want to go too crazy, so I'm going to start with -3, and then I'm going to deepen the blacks by -5. Lights, I'm going to push up just a tiny bit because I want that light area to pop and have nice separation. Next, we'll jump up to exposure, and I don't really think we need a whole lot of that, so I'm just going to go with 0.05. I'm going to add in a little bit of contrast here. Highlights, just push those a tad. Add just a touch of shadows. Maybe let's go -2. Add just a tiny bit of white and add a little more blacks. Let's go with -3. We'll add just a touch of texture and then a small amount of clarity and then a little bit of dehaze. That'll just help everything pop nicely. Okay, and then we'll add just a touch of sharpening. The number I use most times is 15 on sharpening. It adds some, but it's not too much. And then I always come down to detail and just bump that to 20. I do that on everything. I don't know why that particular number, it's just the one I use. Okay, let's see our before and after. We can do that by pressing the P key. So here is our before. Here is our after. Before, after, before, after. Pretty minimal on the edits. And we'll click OK. And now we can hit Control D to deselect. Just wanted to mention really quick, if you need to make adjustments to your film border and not the image itself, if we hit Control Z here, that'll take us back to our selection. I believe it is Control Shift I is the inverse selection shortcut, or you can come up to Select Inverse. And what this does is now the film border itself is selected. So if you need to darken the film border, which from time to time that is the case, that's how you can do that. We don't need to in this image, so we will hit Control D to deselect, and then to save this image back to Lightroom, we hit Control S, boom, boom, and here is our edit. And we can tell this is our edited file because it says .tiff. The original copy we did was this one here, 374 copy 1, and here is the copy of that. This image I'm not going to dust in Photoshop. If you'd like to see a video on that, I'll link it below. We have our final copy from a number of years ago here, dusted and all ready to go. Out of curiosity, let's see how our new edit and the original edit stack up. So here's our new one we just did for this video and the one from a few years ago. So really the only difference is there is more, the shadows are deeper, but I do prefer our most recent edit. I like that better. So anyway, that is how you edit HP5 in Negative Lab Pro and Photoshop. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya. Okay, that is good enough.